All right, what is up, friends and fellow anti-netters? I have the great, legendary Lane Watson, Mr. Anti-Netter, and the man bunkered down in North Carolina with just his anti-net and some books and Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning books, which he will finish in the year 2056. And yeah, so what's up, Lane?
You're too kind. You're a scholar and a gentleman. Hey, not much, man. Just it's amazingly chilly here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So yeah, other than that.
As you can see from the background, it's super chilly and horrible weather out here in San Diego, California. uh, but yeah, man. The purpose of what we're going to be doing today is, like we just chatted about briefly, is to talk about a guy that you introduced me to a few weeks ago.
I'm sorry.
And a guy who we were just laughing about this character. There's this individual named Justin Murphy, and he's a very intriguing and funny individual. He's into philosophy, anarchy. There's hints
Christianity.
Of Christianity. There's hints of anti-Semitism in there. No, just kidding.
I mean, it's borderline. I will say that.
Yeah. No, but no, he's a really interesting character. I'm grateful you introduced him to me. And one of the intriguing posts that Justin Murphy published recently was the article, which is titled "Personal Knowledge Management is Bullshit." And here Lane and I are to discuss the article and really reflect on, okay, well, is personal knowledge management bullshit? And my overall take is that I actually, when I read his Justin Murphy's article, like I'm on board and I agree with a lot of what he has to say, though there's some specific delineations and differentiations that I think that he makes in the post that we can go through. And yeah, I think it's Lane and I are here to really determine for the rest of the world of whether or not PKM is truly bullshit. Yeah. Exactly.
Is it truly handed down?
Yeah.
According to the gospel.
What does the anti-net, what does the true Zettelkasten, the original Zettelkasten, have to say about this purported PKM being bullshit? That is what we are going to unearth and excavate on.
I don't know. Yours is like grandfather. Mine's like grandchild. This is 2 years old.
Yeah, 2 years old. 20. I don't know, the grandfather over there. Yeah. So
well, pull up the article. Let's go through it. Let's try not to character assassinate.
Yeah, that's hard for me to do. I've because I've bashed Sankey Arons so much and so fervently, but I really, and I try to make it a point. It's like I'm not doing ad hominem attacks at all. I'm just critiquing their interpretations and their theories.
Yeah.
Luckily for Justin Murphy and for his article, I agree with about like 96% of what he says. There's about 4% that I think that needs to be further elaborated on. And yeah,
I concur with you on that. Like if he had kept it strictly, the only thing that threw me off in that article is when he brought in Luhmann. Up until then, I was like, oh, he's bashing digital. I get it. Yeah. But then he had to go after. Had to fuck with the righteous. Excuse my language. I know I'm supposed to keep it clean this time.
You are not supposed to keep it clean. I think the title of this video is going to be "Is PKM Bullshit?"
Yeah.
So yeah, let's jump into this. I'll pull up the article right now and screen share it, and let's go through this. All right. You still with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Cool. So here is the article. Personal knowledge management. And by the way, I just heard some whatever skips in the microphone. If my microphone sounds all crazy all of a sudden, let me know.
Okay. Yeah, sounds, I didn't hear it. Sounds fine.
Okay, cool. That might just be the internal voice of God in my head. Or Nicholas Luhmann himself.
But I'll send you to I'll send you to a creativity research study so that they can deem you mentally ill because you're creative.
Excellent. All right.
Very off topic. All right.
So kicking things off, the first thing he discusses, and I think this really sets the trend, and it really showcases a point of differentiation or distinction that I think needs to be made, is how he defines personal knowledge management. So he says personal knowledge management is a trendy new term for techniques and applications designed to manage information. And really how I think of it is that, notice this key point of manage information. And that is essentially, with all the digital tools and apps and like things like Second Brain and Linking Your Thinking and Rome Research, it very much does encompass this. They are encompassed by this definition, specifically managing information, because information, on the DIKW pyramid, there's data, which is like the just raw data out in the environment. And then you use representative language and terms to describe the data. That's what information is. And then when you add a deep level of digestion and understanding and applying your own meaning, interpretation, and experiences and reflections on information, then you create knowledge. And then wisdom is the highest point in that pyramid, and wisdom is simply applied knowledge. It's action. And the thing is that I think this is, personal knowledge management has essentially become this exact definition of what Murphy defines here. It's really information. It's really unprocessed information. And like the second brain, building a second brain guy, he's all about like capturing articles and then kind of like storing them, right? And a lot of this stuff is just information. And that's one of the things that I think Nicholas Luhmann, he never really did PKM. PKM is, basically storing information and not really processing it deeply, right? And storing it in Evernote, storing it in Rome Research, connecting the ideas, which is just kind of like busy work and doesn't really like necessarily create a ton of value in the long term. What Nicholas Luhmann did, instead of being lumped into the PKM category, is he really did, I guess I'm going to throw out another, let's invent another acronym. What he did was analog knowledge development. So he developed knowledge, and there's kind of 4 phases in which he developed knowledge, and 4 processes, but he developed knowledge by being forced to reflect on the information, develop it out, write it by hand, and really turn that information into knowledge. He also, and one of the things that I think is the most powerful factor of analog knowledge development, or let's call it AKD, right, is the analog part. And the analog part forced him to be very, very selective about the sources he read, and also very selective about what he selected within those sources. It also forced him to be very deliberate in how he extracted the information, because it's not as simple as highlighting text and then basically, exporting your Kindle highlights or any of that bull crap. It's not as simple as, hitting the read it later button on your browser and then, storing it in Evernote or putting it in Obsidian and linking that idea. He did analog knowledge development. It was hard. And, so that's the first point. Like, so we're not going to spend this much time on every single sentence or paragraph, but that's like one of the main key distinctions in, how Murphy sees it. Is Murphy lumps in, Rome Research and Linking Your Thinking and Obsidian all into the PKM category, but he also lumps Luhmann into the PKM category. And Luhmann is not in the PKM category. This PKM is a new trendy term. And I think it is completely overhyped. And I think it is, for the most part, bullshit.
Well, I mean, it's obvious from the article that Justin's not super familiar with this whole movement trend system, because you can just tell that it's he might have literally briefly looked at it, maybe played with it, maybe not. From the article, I can tell he has a very brief overview of it. I do agree with him. And I can see why he would legitimately, but falsely, throw Luhmann into the mix of this, is because everyone in the PKM points to Luhmann, and that's the problem. That's the problem right there.
Yeah, and it's a great story, and they use him as kind of like the authority figure, the authority bias of, why would you invest in all of this bullshit work? Well, there's this dead German philosopher, sociologist that wrote 70 books and 550 published papers. It's very easy to point to him. Yet, like that would work, and I do that too, essentially. But I actually use the same system that Luhmann used.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the difference.
Well, he's the origin story, right?
Yeah.
And everything has to have an origin story. And that sounds so great.
The hero's journey. Everyone loves a good origin story.
Yeah. I mean, the guy was prolific. So of course that's easy, and Justin points out, it's great for selling software. So
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I loved that point in this piece.
The cool thing, the thing that you brought up, though, and it's not necessarily to Justin's article, but I've already had people say, well, that's just too hard when I'm telling them about my analytics system. That's just too hard. It's hard in context of the laziness that the digital lifestyle has promoted. The internet culture, the computers have developed a laziness in us. They've done the 1 point click to pull up the thesaurus, to pull up the dictionary, all these things. It's not harder, actually. And as you pointed out, it forces selectiveness. And there was a time when you would have to write by hand. Even if you were typing, you'd go to the library. Very rarely would you take your typewriter with you. That was at home. You went to the library, do research. You took a legal pad, and you wrote, and you learned real quick that you had to be much more selective. We're not selective anymore, and people wonder why we need a knowledge management system. Well, there's your reason. You don't know how to select what's important. And like you said, also the especially the Obsidians and the Roams and all that is literally people who collect information, and that is a different mindset, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's usually why we have library systems, right? There's collecting information. Let those people do it if they want to be basically librarians, and let the ones of us who want to actually give them prolific and tomes down the road that they can collect, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like with selectivity being so easy, you end up selecting everything, and then you end up just your knowledge management system just becomes filled with all this crap instead of just only filled with the best of the best material. And it's funny, is like, the pitch, and this is what Murphy outlines in this piece, especially even right here. Like, everyone is overloaded with information thanks to digital revolution. So the PKM people tell us we need new software systems to survive and thrive. So far, so good. I agree with this intuition. The problem is that no, you don't need the software systems to survive and thrive. That's the exact opposite of what you need, because the software systems make it so easy to capture more and more and more of this digital overblown bullshit that is, flooding in from the external environment. So now you have a system that can allow you to capture, since there's more information in the external environment. Now software solutions have been created so that the systems, allow you and enable you to capture more and more information. But what you don't want is more and more information. That's not solving the problem. What you want is more deliberate attention and time to be forced to make hard decisions and sift through what is really important and what is not important. And that's one of the things that Luhmann did, and that people are starting to do, that have learned the anti-net Zettelkasten. And when you read a book now, right, you take notes on a card like this, like Luhmann did, right? Vertically.
Yeah.
And you extract it. You can't just Kindle highlight your way through life. Like that's not a solution to why, your creativity
boomer.
problems. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can't. What'd you say? You can't what?
You can't Kindle highlight away your life. Seriously,
that sounds so much like a dad thing.
Yeah. God damn it, kids! You can't Kindle highlight your way through life. Look at these goddamn kids these days.
You got to make a meme out of that. Start posting it.
To school. Using our actual physical books and our book bags. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. That's a key point in all of this. By the way, yeah, Justin Murphy. He says in the article he tried out Rome research for 2 weeks, and that seems kind of like the extent of his personal knowledge management experience. But his experience was similar to ours. Like, we used Obsidian. I spent so much time. I invested a ton of time in Obsidian, and it took me a while to realize, after like 1,000 notes, to realize how I think overhyped and overblown this whole thing is. And it took me, all of that investment to realize that digital is not the solution. It's the solution is what Luhmann actually did, which is to be selective and to be deliberate and unplug. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. Let's yeah, let's keep going down this article, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, so this section he talks about is what he talks about here is how what he admits is, like PKM could be like marginally helpful. It's like it could like marginally help people, and I think it can work at the margin. And like he said, and like he pointed out, he's like, but probably marginally amenable to intervention does not make for great marketing copy. Which is absolutely true. And so this is something where I agree with him is the, PKM gurus and influencers, especially, they've got like, the courses continue to go up in price, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, they're not going to market it in the way that it probably accurately is, which is probably marginally amenable to intervention. This is another point where I agree with Murphy on. Yeah. It's just overblown.
Yeah, this section of his essay kind of lost me because I don't know what he's talking about in genetics and things like that. Like, I mean, was he saying that being organized is a genetic quality?
Yeah, I saw that too. Like right around here.
Yeah, up there and in the paragraph you're in too.
These like, naturally organized people realize they're sitting on valuable commodity, which they can sell to less industrious and orderly people.
Yeah, go up to the top paragraph where he introduces it. Yeah, see that first sentence. What is he talking about there? A great proportion of the variance in knowledge management effectiveness across the individual is genetic.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin. Hi, Hitler, buddy. I mean, what the fuck is he talking about here, dude? I mean, that's where he started losing me. I was like, are you saying that genetics, orderliness is genetics? I mean,
yeah,
I guess a predisposition.
It is interesting because it's like, different people have different tendencies and different ways of thinking, obviously, about the world and ways of like ordering their knowledge.
I would take that would be nurture and learning, not nature, though.
Yeah.
So I didn't something, but
I didn't read into this too much, because I think he probably believes in like the neuroplasticity of the mind and brain. But yeah, the way this reads, it's just like, oh yeah, some people are just like born organized, and some people are born,
disorganized.
And the PKM appeals for the disorganized people. And yeah, in a sense, I do think it does seem to attract the people that are disorganized, and they like don't really have a clear definition of why they're even looking for a PKM system, and they're like, oh my God, this is how my mind works. And it's like, wait, actually, it's like, you know, and I think a point he makes later on in this is that, you know, the way that the PKM is structured and is it's like very flat, you know, and non-hierarchical. And he says, well, that's how the mind works. It's like the thing that you should strive for in your digital systems is to have a hierarchical, more ordered kind of, you know, synthesized version of information and knowledge so that you can understand it better.
Yeah,
and so
through the web.
Yeah. So I think disorganized people are like, oh my God, this is how my brain works. It's like, yeah, but you don't really necessarily want complete chaos, which I think that's what the knowledge graphs kind of are. It's just like a bunch of bullshit. And they're just, you know, a bunch of bubbles representing nodes that are connected. That's not really that helpful. Yeah,
it's like brainstorming. There's a lot of, you know, potential ideas that can come out of it, but it is definitely not an organized way of, you know, getting your thoughts down, you know, ultimately to, you know, produce.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an ideation tool, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I just, you know, I mean, you know, those type of things bother me when people make it like, oh, you're, you know, if that was the case, I wouldn't have picked up, you know, the anti-net, you know what I'm saying? Oh, this is too cut through, you know, my web of ideas. I need something that allows me to see all the links at once, like a graph, you know, because that's typically how I would think about it, you know, like, oh, it's my brain. He does make a good point of that. We don't need more of our brain. We need to be able to cut straight through it to clarity, you know, and but so there is an appeal to seeing that knowledge graph, right? You know, to people, anybody, because it's like, oh, you know, one, look at all the connections of knowledge I have, you know, but yeah, you already have that in your brain. They're just not solidified into long-term memory, maybe, or, you know, they're symbolic. Well, everything's symbolic, you know, representation, so information. And so I do agree with him like that. And what you said, you know, hey, we need to cut, you know, it needs to be straight to clarity.
Yeah. But, you know, in Justin's world, the, you know, of course, the, what is it called? The, what is the perfect German race? What are we going to call those? What are they called?
The Uberman.
The Uberman. No, there's the.
I hate to. I mean, that's Nietzsche. I hate to. Or is it Nietzsche? I hate to use that.
It's not Nietzsche. What
Nietzsche
did they?
Wasn't a Nazi.
What did they call it?
The Aryan race.
The Aryan race. Yes. So essentially, what Justin Murphy's planning to seed here is there's a certain two classes of people. There's the Aryan knowledge management people who are super organized and born that way, and then there are the rest of us.
German efficiency.
Then there are us plebs here who are
another reason why Obsidian would have been great for Hitler.
Exactly. And, you know, of course we know you know, Putin used Obsidian to map out his Ukrainian war plans. So, you know, here it's absolutely spot on and on point. So next part of the article is interesting is he talks about bidirectional links or backlinks, you know, and he calls them, you know, like nifty little trendy software motifs, you know, and I agree with him here. It's like I've been a huge proponent against backlinks. I think they're just I call them attention burglars, you know, like they haven't yet robbed your attention, but they're just sitting there, you know, they're sitting there to distract you and get you down a rabbit hole of bullshit and, you know, be a land of perfect procrastination for you. You know, backlinks are complete bullshit. They are complete waste of time. They tell you what is linking to the current document, and that's not how human memory works. We want it. Human memory works in a way such that forward associations and forward, you know, associations in your mind and like linking to the next item is the one that's more important and one that's more useful. And so anyway, this is an area I agree with Murphy on. Let's see. He also, you know, craps on the knowledge graph and Rome research and the bubbles, you know, which we kind of just covered. What else? You know, like right here, he calls that a signaling theory.
Which is interesting because, you know, information is a part of a signaling theory, right? So Do you think that's what he meant? Like, hey, this is just literally information. This is not something that you could literally, in your hierarchy that you're talking about, you cannot move to wisdom with this graph. It's just information, unprocessed information. Anybody that's built this, and I would say even in 10 years, this graph that you have on the screen has no processing into this. This is literally capture mode to me. That's what that says to me.
Yeah. And that's what I think a lot of people do. They end up, doing their processing, on paper, right? When they're actually writing the piece. The problem is that the thing that made Luhmann's work absolutely magical is he pre-processed all of his writing already by hand stamping it and writing it out by hand, in his own anti-net, right? And then what that enabled him to do, and I've experienced this myself firsthand in writing my book, is you then take like your fully pre-processed thoughts and then you process them again. So it's like you double process the knowledge. The Zettelkasten then forces you to process the knowledge. And then when you turn it into, by putting it in a note, right? And a main note, right? And then when you actually put it in a manuscript form, you're then reprocessing the knowledge again. So it's double knowledge processing. Wherein, with this type of system, in digital Zettelkasten systems or digital PKM systems, you're only processing once on your actual manuscript and paper, if you even get that far. Like the problem is that you're inundated with all this bullshit and all these crazy connections that you're like, how do I even untangle this web? It looks cool, but it's like, it's just, it makes writing even harder, in my opinion.
It goes back to like the signaling, the selectiveness of things, because I'm interested in a lot of things, but I'm also realizing that my main focus is to produce, right? So I can't process information that's not relevant to what I'm working on. So like if it's not creativity based, consciousness based, a little bit of psychedelics, but I'm noticing, even in my anti-net that the actual, creativity is starting to overcome the consciousness, which I'm very interested in, because it's something that I need to produce work on soon. And so it forces selectiveness. If I was out using, and I've done it, if I was using like Obsidian again, what would be happening is I would be inputting lots of information. Oh, that's an interesting article. Like just from the title, maybe not even from the abstract, it would be coming in. And then I would end up like a graph like that. And how do you, I guess I could point, click on one of the larger dots to find, oh, this is a cluster. But even within that cluster, it's like not going to work. So I agree with him. That is, that graph, where did he get it from? The single most widely shared marketing image for Rome research. Okay. Well, that is not a marketing plus for me. If I'd seen that graph, I would have been like, maybe I don't want to get into this.
Yeah. Like this looks like it's creates. Yeah. Here's the pitch: create more chaos from chaos. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like Luhmann's system, like look at this, the system behind me is he called it a system of order and disorder, quote, in his paper. It's like you want it to reflect nature, right? Where nature, you have these fundamental laws, like the laws of thermodynamics or the atomic law, just very simple individual units, but over time they can build into molecules and complexify and become more chaotic in these weird structures. But it all starts with like one simple little rule. And I don't so I guess what he was saying here is that knowledge graphs are bullshit signaling devices as soon as you look at one of these horrendous things. It's I think he used
so he used to use it more in like almost like virtue signaling,
exactly,
like marketing signaling. Oh, okay. I was thinking information signaling.
So he says like that people show off these illegible globs in public only makes sense from a signaling perspective.
Oh, okay.
They are saying, look at how many nodes I have in my brain. Amazing nodes. I have so many nodes that a peon such as yourself can't even guess what's going on here.
That is true.
He actually nails it. He nails it with that. He absolutely nails it with that, because that is essentially what, guys like I like Nick Milo of Linking Your Thinking. I think he means well, even though, I'm not a fan of, I don't think watch his YouTube videos. Don't bother yourself with taking the course. That's my opinion. Right. But I think he's the Linking Your Thinking guy, is just like, when you see his crazy, graphs and like his computer, and it's just this massive thing, massive screen, you're like, he gives you that sense. He's signaling in that exact specific way. It's like, I have so many nodes that a peon such as yourself can't even guess what's going on here. Mm-hmm. It sold me like, a year ago. I was like, man, like, holy shit, like, what is all this crazy stuff? It must make sense in his mind. And I come to find out, after I've built out, it doesn't. It's just,
it doesn't.
It's not like it creates a,
the thing about it is if you watch his videos, Nick Milo or whatever, or any of the other PKM digital Zettelkasten guys, one of the things I've noticed is, and I just did this last week, one of the things I noticed is that they are very fragmented, ideal people. Like when I listen to them talk, even about their own systems and everything, they use terminology and and bridge ideas. I'm just like, dude, are you even using logic here? I mean, there's something missing. Like they're almost like their brain is that like map above. Like they're so jumbled that they can't even see a clarity in their thought. And it's very, if you notice, there's a lot of techno babble, a lot of made up words, things like that. It's almost kind of like post structuralism, or something. I don't know. It's very weird.
Yeah, they have their own terminology and vocab. It's like,
which it's supposed to make you sound smarter, right?
Yeah, it's like, it's not about note taking, it's about note making. Like, don't you want to cry now hearing that? All this knowledge that you're about to create for the world.
Yeah, not to jump on Milo, but his brain, when he talks, I'm like, this MFer has frazzled his brain on something, and it must be on Obsidian, because he is, I don't know, there's just something very off about him. It's like at first you're like, wow, this guy is really smart and brilliant. But then when you really kind of sit back and listen to him, you're like, hold on, this doesn't make any sense what he's saying.
Here we are, just sorry, Nick. I mean, I think he's a
no
shrewd
character assassination.
Yeah. I think Nick is a shrewd, savvy. I like what he's doing, but
he's a smart marketer.
Yes. I think that it just doesn't make sense. I think it resonates with some people. It doesn't resonate with other people. And he's made, what, here's the thing is, I think his goal is completely different. That's also, I think we're viewing it from different perspectives and different contexts as well. I read this today is he got into Obsidian and note taking and all of this stuff because, God, I got to pull up another article.
Go ahead.
There was let's see here. Let's see here. I think there was like a Zettelkasten. Here we go. This Zettelkasten. This guy, Bob, I think Dodo. I forgot. I don't know if that's his last name, but he's awesome. I really like him a lot. He's a cool hipster guy, and has a beard, and he's really into digital Zettelkasten. He knows it. This is why I like Bob a lot, is because he knows Luhmann stuff cold. He's done a ton of research, and he's actually, he's integrated as best he possibly can Luhmann's system into the digital Zettelkasten. But he wrote an article today, and it talks about Nick Milo. So he developed the LYT methodology. Of course, we need another acronym, which I guess I'm gonna.
Marketing genius, linking your thinking. I mean, that's like, I gotta give him kudos for that one.
Yeah. So during, I don't want to get on another tangent about that. It's like I really, it's like linking your thinking. It's like, all right,
it's relevant. It's relevant.
Yeah, it's good. I like the name. I think that like, this Zettelkasten in the digital world should really just be called hyperlinked notes. And really, hyperlinked notes isn't necessarily even that unique or valuable. I mean, it is if you're creating a website and you want to get people opening up 50 browser tabs, but it's like, why do you want to do that for your own mind? And that's, what Obsidian and linking your thinking kind of creates. Anyway, it was okay. So I think it started his grandmother,
his mom,
or his mother. Yes. His mother gifted him the Loob classical library, and he needed a way to capture, connect, and retrieve the new wealth of information at his fingertips. So I don't know. Do you know what the Loob classical library is?
No, but I'm going to look it up.
I looked it up briefly today, and I just saw a bunch of books, and I, didn't get that far.
Yeah.
But from how I understand is like, it's just a massive, we can, I guess, look this up. It's a massive resource.
Okay.
The first link.
Yeah. It's like the Great Works series.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what I think,
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. It's like the Great Works. Back in my younger days, you could subscribe to the Great Works. You'd get these really nice hardbound leather copies, and they would come with little readers from the some of the academics around that, Shakespeare or Aristotle, and you'd read along with it. And that was started in the 50s around with Adler and all that, how to read books and things. That's when the Great Book series came about. So that's, I guess, what this is, right? But it's digital.
So, yes. So, and this is where I'm getting with this is, and this is what the article kind of identified for me and really helped me. So thanks, Bob. Shout out to hipster Zettelkasten Bob. He's awesome. So anyway, where I'm going with this is that, well, just swing back. Nick Milo, his goal overall was comprehension, and I guess, just orientation, really orienting himself with all of these ideas and this deluge of information from the Loob classical library. And I guess linking your thinking and that methodology can maybe help if that's your goal. If your goal is just understanding and maybe trying to link different thoughts and different pieces of information, maybe that's a good use, and that explains a lot. That explains
for like a college course, or to really as a study aid, to make connections, I guess. I could see the value, but
maybe just like anymore. A personal hobbyist type of thing, personal exploration.
What do you do with that? I mean, what's the whole point of philosophy is to act. So if you're going to just take in knowledge and just be, Aristotle said this. Motherfucker. Okay, he did. But what are you doing with it? Right. That's my point. It's like you have to take action on the things that you learn in life, i.e. wisdom, or what's the point of living? And I feel like the knowledge management, PKM, all of that stuff is people. It's literally, it's positioning, it's signaling. Justin's right. It is signaling. Look, plebe, how much I know, and probably even could talk, I mean, I've met those people. They can talk me around in circles and everything, because I'm a slow, methodical thinker. I like to take my time with information. I like to process it through different lenses and things. So those people are impressive. They even impress me when I'm around, until I slow down and I go, you know what? They have so many logic holes, it is insane. This guy is an idiot, or this lady's an idiot. I'm not going to listen to him anymore, right? So PKM, perfect for that. Yeah. And in a very snake oily marketing realm where everybody should start their own business and be an entrepreneur, I guess digital PKM is the way to go. Or PKM in general. There, we're talking about two different things. We're talking about digital versus analog, and we're talking about PKM versus development of knowledge, right?
I call it knowledge development. That's what Luhmann did. He did analog knowledge development. Or since they've got an acronym, we might as well muddle up the waters even more by creating our own acronym. AKD.
AKD.
Luhmann did AKD, not PKM. People. Yeah. Moral of the story. But it is true. I mean, like, he did analog knowledge development, not it really should not be called, personal knowledge management. It should be called personal information management. Yeah. Or personal information connection, or personal information, I don't even know. But yeah.
Personal information storage. PISS.
Yes.
No. Now I got to find something for. We got to find.
You need to add
an acronym for OFF, so I can say it's the piss off system.
No, but personal information storage system. That is what.
It's the piss system.
Nick. That is what. Sorry, Nick. That seems to be what Nick Milo is teaching. The personal information storage system. PISS. So, anywho. There in this article, Justin really nails one piece. I want to find where this thing was. He talks. Oh yeah, here. These two paragraphs. I think Murphy absolutely nails it. He says, the problem with knowledge graph ideology is that everything in your mind is already situated in a graph structure, like what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Yep. That is precisely the problem. It's big and complicated with way too many connections everywhere. There's no good in replicating that web in digital form. And this is absolutely true. We have, like, I think 100 billion neurons in our mind. I have it. And I think we have, like, there's like trillions of connections between the neurons. So it's like we already have this insane graph in our head. What we need is a system that allows us to essentially simplify this and create, more interesting structures, right? And then he says, I submit that you are unlikely to author anything very profound or forceful, so long as you are possessed by the knowledge graph ideology. It is in the interest of many people, however, to spread this ideology merely because software excels at generating graphs and software can be sold. Precisely. And then also, complicated abstractions and, personal information, storage systems, PISS essentially can then be sold on top of it. So that, so you have software, then you have PISS being sold on top of the software. Okay. So, and then courses can be offered exactly to alleviate the pain of overly complicated knowledge graphs. So that is precisely, like, Murphy absolutely nails it in this spot on right here. So all right, we agree on that. We've kind of covered that. This is where I think you and I, and this is where he, I think, makes a little bit of a mistake, because he lumps Luhmann into the PKM camp or the PISS camp instead of the AKD camp, the analog knowledge development camp. And
it's because it's really about piss and shit, because software has information theory is kind of what allows piss to happen, right? So you have kind of a piss and shit situation here with digital Zettelkasten.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, I like your technical, very erudite terms that
Well, I mean, software has information theory. That is true.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. So Murphy says every person into PKM will say, But what about Luhmann and his Zettelkasten note-taking system? Yeah. Many writers have devised lots of little systems, and the fact that everyone in PKM mentions this one guy supports my argument. What percentage of history's greatest and most prolific writers did not use the Zettelkasten? More than 99% probably. So this is actually where he gets some stuff wrong as well. So Zettelkasten, and this is why the term is just, it's been hijacked and it's been, basically lumped into the PKM/PIS category, wherein it's in a different category altogether. Because what does Zettelkasten mean? Zettelkasten means, Zettel means note and Kasten means box. So it's a note box. Actually, like probably close to 99% or a significant portion used note boxes. There's so many writers that used note boxes. The guy that created cybernetics, W. Ross Ashby, his was just published. He used notebox and index cards. The more and more you read about great thinkers, like recently in like the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, you realize a lot of them used, obviously a lot of them used analog tools to do their thinking, right? Like notebooks, like Richard Feynman and Albert Einstein. And you didn't like go back to Leonardo da Vinci, right? His notebooks, Bill Gates just bought one of them for like $30 million, right? Those are not note boxes, but you can even start to see more and more people like Abraham Maslow used, note boxes. And a lot of, like, I have a list of them, a lot of huge major scholars and like even Renaissance scholars used note boxes. The note box systems started with Conrad Gessner in like the 1500s, and then it evolved from there.
Antonin, lots of writers have used index cards. I mean, look at most screenwriters, they use index cards for scene construction. And as a writer and studying, before I went into a poetry BFA, I was, a literature and theology major, and went to a Jesuit university who had a huge collection of Jesuit writers, as well as, other writers that they could get their hands on, American, British writers, mostly Western. There was a significant amount of writers that used index cards because it's a way to organize, like you do while you're writing your book. It's a way of organizing the notes that you have taken that, for scene construction, for character construction.
Exactly.
So a lot of fiction writers use note cards. Now, whether they put it in a box or not, probably because that's what you tend to do with index cards to keep them together. So
yeah,
I would say, I would think probably near 99% of other writers used a note box system throughout history. I see what he's getting at.
99% did not use Obsidian, and 99% did not take, linking your thinking. So yeah, you're right about that. But 99% probably did use a system similar to what Nicholas Luhmann did.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say 99%, right? And that's kind of extreme. I always like to use different figures. Like I like to go, like the highest I like to go in anything is like 96%, because it's a fractal of the 80-20 principle, right? Like, like what's 20% of 20%, 4%, right?
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah.
You should just send them your book when it's ready, because I would feel the same way if I'd spent 2 weeks of this and everything I came across was pointing this one guy, Luhmann, and I'm sure he didn't go dive into Luhmann to really understand what the system was from there. So I could see where he gets this argument or this point wrong, because he's basing it on the Zettelkasten movement, digital Zettelkasten movement, and they don't even have it right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're confused as well. Cause I mean, the three best sources to actually understand how the true Zettelkasten works is, number one, Nicholas Luhmann's online archive, right, of his actual notes. And those are in German, and his handwriting is tough to read. And then you have to, it's a long-term project that it'll be done and completed and transcribed by the year 2030 by Johannes Schmidt. but you have to sit there and sift through hours upon hours, like I have, like and you have to be a crazy motherfucker like me that, has enough time and, energy and passion to go through youth and I am, also of what Justin Murphy would point out, I am, of the Ubermensch race, and I am by nature organized, and I was born this way. Apparently, right? No, but yeah, there's that, and then so it's really hard. It's a learning curve.
Murphy being an Irishman, he needs to take it from a German. Shut up. I know what organizational man is supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I'm German is my last name, but I'm a lot of me is Irish and Scottish as well. But yeah, I'm just gonna adopt whatever ethnicity is convenient for my sake of argument. So yeah, listen to me. I'm more German than you, Murphy.
I would love to. I mean, I would love to know his thoughts if he had a clear understanding of what Luhmann was, and even of your system. Like, I'd be interested to see what he thinks of your system. You should reach out to him and say, hey, let's invite me on your podcast to talk about, the anti-net,
I think that would be interesting. I would really love to show it to him in person, though, so he can really wrap his mind around it.
Well, I could see it, Austin.
I could see it going, one of two ways. I think his mind would either be blown, or he would be, he would push back a lot, and so
being what I see in him as from his Twitter feed and just even the stuff he writes, I don't know. He's so digital anarchist. He's so embraced that like digital revolution, and like, things should be led by like Peter Thiels and things. I don't know if he would respond to a analog system. I'd be very interested to know.
So I'm very into crypto. I've started my own cryptocurrency back in 2018, and it took off. That's why I'm able to actually kick my feet up and enjoy and pursue whatever I want to do. Right. And I'm really into decentralization, Ethereum. I'm in the ins and outs of that stuff, but I know, at least from my own personal experience, how I taught myself all of that stuff is through reading, taking handwritten notes, thinking deeply, and and stamping out a lot of my thinking the old way, the hard way, the analog way of pen, paper, and mapping out your thoughts, ideas. And that has been the means. This is the means, right? Like I've always said, this is the thinking tool. The internet is the means to achieving the end. The end is the digital distributed systems, right? I don't use an analog roadmap guide, today. I use Google Maps, right? And the digital, there's certain things digital is way better for, but thinking is not one of those things.
You're not a Luddite.
Yes, I'm not a Luddite. Yeah, exactly. I'm not. I also, during Shabbat, I don't turn off my electronic devices. That's going to be challenging because I'm flying to Israel tomorrow night for a friend's wedding, and we land on Shabbat. So we're like,
after this conversation,
trains are shut down.
Israeli government watches, says no, do not let Scott Scheper. He's saying he's an Uber man.
That is a very good point. Yeah. So basically, I'll be flying to the borders and the airport of Israel tomorrow night and be flying home immediately. 16-hour flight, no biggie. It's gonna be fun. Yeah.
I mean, I would super be interested into seeing. I don't know. I think if he was legitimately if he's legitimately this is a very loaded way of putting it, but if he's as legitimately intellectual and a true philosopher, then I think he would see the value of what you have here and not just dismiss it for being contrarian, which, we all need to be we all need to be kind of, if we want to get noticed, kind of push it out there. You know, if you want your product to get picked up, you got to be a little, you know, against the grain. And I get it, but sometimes, you know, I know how to embrace something when it's genius, you know, too. So I'd be very interested.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if he actually you know, watches this you know, analysis, this take on his article here, and maybe this is a perfect way to start the dialogue. Yeah, we'll find out. But yeah, anyways, I'm in no rush. I'm gonna be you know, basically in shackles at the airport of Israel here for the next foreseeable future, starting tomorrow night. So maybe after I get back, I can pursue that. Yeah. So there's another point. I think I've got two more points on this. Is he, you know, he talks about hierarchical here. Knowledge isn't hierarchical, and linear knowledge is hyperlinked. That's like, it's ontology, man. I love his writing style, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really funny and clever. But yeah, I agree with him on this, the hierarchy thing. But I think we already covered that. I think that the main point is at the end, what he says. He doesn't say personal knowledge management is bullshit. He kind of hedges it at the very end. He says personal knowledge management is mostly, highlight the word mostly, bullshit, made possible in the short term by the magnitude of the problem and the widespread felt need for a solution. So yeah, so I think, you know, he's kind of hedged it. He says it's mostly bullshit. You know, he started out with saying it is bullshit. But yeah, I would agree with him here. I think what Murphy is saying is that personal knowledge management is 96% bullshit. And I am in agreement with him. Up about I'm 96% of me agrees with him that 96% of personal knowledge management is bullshit. So we'll fractal that, and that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, he says there, the deep and urgent sense that we're all drawing information destructions create a massive market for anything that claims to solve this problem. He's spot on with that. And I don't think personal knowledge management is going to solve that problem. It's literally disconnecting from the funnel of, you know, shoved in your brain from, you know, all ways technologically. Let's, you know, I'm not a Luddite either. I love futurism and technology, AI and all that, but blockchain, but it is out of control. And the only way to get control of that is to shut it down. That's what I've done. I don't watch TV, except, you know, my wife and I want to watch a show on Netflix or something, but I don't get on social media, although I'm kind of starting to get back into it because I want to start promoting my stuff. You know, I've got to get in the streams of other people and add to the knowledge information overload. Hopefully what I have to say is, you know, different and important enough. But I've cut off all sorts of streams, and then finding, you know, the anti-net, reducing it even more, right? To not even have to use the computer to capture and put information into something for me to process is a relief, right? I literally can shut the computer off, sit at my desk, pull out my note cards, a book, even if it is a Kindle. I don't use a Kindle anymore, but, you know, because I like flipping pages and I hate using the Kindle because I can't flip my pages back easy to find where it was. But you know, just being able to sit there and write it out, you know, and to slow down. You know, the system is not hard. And you said, you know, using the hard way of things. I don't think it's harder. I think it's liberating. And I think people are not used to slowing down. Just slow down your thoughts. You know, you already have the brilliance, you know, maybe not the genetic brilliance I have as a white Aryan man, but joke. I want to say that's a joke just in case it ever makes it just in audio.
According to we're saying that because
according to Justin Murphy.
Justin Murphy says just so the backstory is Justin Murphy.
Justin Murphy believes that, not me. I'm totally joking, people.
Yeah. We were saying that because apparently in Justin Murphy, he's kind of like this prolific, a little bit, wacky, funny. He has got some. He's very intellectual, but he also, as what Lane was pointing out, he's his last video. We can pull it up. Like his last video on YouTube was having coffee with Hitler. That was like the title of his YouTube video or something, right? And it's so like Lane was saying like there's some innuendos here, and what we're doing
not is innuendo. But when you look at his detractors, the people, his opponents against him and Land and all those people, it is a very elitist, intellectual, technical, theocratic mindset. It's it takes a lot to parse through what he's saying in a lot of his material, not his blog, but if you go on his Twitter and stuff, he writes stuff that's like, it supports things that, like the NFT I was talking about earlier. He supports things that are like, people are like, hold on, Treblinka, that was a concentration camp. Why is that on a t-shirt on your NFT? And oh, well, that was an art, progressive art pushing the boundaries of what, I get it. And hey, I'm all for it. I don't believe in censorship, but
wave it under the banner of heaven, just put the stamp of art on anything. And then you can just, like you can get offended by the people that were offended, right? That way.
And then like, not to get all this tangent, but like, I saw another podcast where he puts a video podcast up, and he had these people on. They were like, they're Christian. They don't need permission. God gives them permission, right? Interesting. Okay. I come from a Christian background. I used to be a really hardcore Christian, very Christocentric is the way I used to live my life. More of a Buddhist now, but I get it, and they're kind of radical, but the chicks look like, I'm not gonna say the S word, but they look like it. They're talking about, what I'm saying is it's very paradoxical. He's a very paradoxical guy, which I love.
Because I think the universe is one big paradox. You know? It's okay
to be a contrarian.
The things that are true are usually paradoxical. You know? Like I think both everything matters and nothing matters. You know, it's like that's a paradox, and I think it's true.
I like the guy intellectually. I like him. I can't figure out like a lot of his things he talks about. It's kind of almost like I don't feel like I'm old. I'm a pretty kind of hip guy. I mean, I've always enjoyed people from different generations, and I believe the young have a lot to teach me. And I'm pretty technical savvy and very research savvy. So if I want to know something, but his stuff just is for me, I'm just like, I'm not getting something. Is this like a coded language for that generation? Because he's, much younger than I am. He might be in his 30s, I guess, young 30s if he's in his 30s. Or is he just like, is it just super pseudo intellectual trolling is what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, no, I think he's completely authentic, earnest, and honest. Like his, he's authentically a professes to be a Christian. And what's funny is, like he holds it as very important and true. Yet he has this maxim lately that he seems to be on, and which is called his 10% more psycho maxim, is because what he says is that because he's a Christian man, he's naturally a little bit meeker than other people, or that he than maybe he presents himself, or maybe he believes himself to be. So therefore he has a maxim and a rule that he operates by, which like anything he says, he's like, I'm going to be a 10% more psycho and put a 10% more psycho spin on it, which is probably why his PKM post is titled, personal knowledge management is bullshit, instead of personal knowledge management is mostly bullshit, which is how he kind of concludes that article. Is the the clickbait headline is 10% more psycho, and that works for him.
That makes sense now. That makes sense now that you brought that up. I didn't realize that he felt that way. I mean, when I was super Christian, I always went with I was always kind of like I saw myself as like, Paul, don't fuck with me. I bear the marks of Christ on me. I was very, like but I have noticed that when I was in the church, when I was younger, I was part of the church. I noticed that most men were very, just little pusses, basically.
Yeah, pussies.
Christian men.
They look like the dad
beta
on
males.
Coco Melon.
Yeah. Exactly. And I just was never like that.
With a plaid shirt and khakis and a belt and it tucked in. Yeah, the Coco Melon dad. Yeah, that's
and what they wonder why. And they always wonder why their women were hanging out with me after church. I was like skateboarding, smoking cigarettes, going to the bar, saving people at the bar, proselytizing at the bar. They were like, I want to hang out with Lane. He has some fun.
Yeah. Coco Melon dad was twiddling his thumbs at home. That's nice, Lane.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. That makes sense to me then how he's trying to push the edge a little bit so he doesn't come off as
I like him. I
do too.
I like him. I think his what is it called? He's very progressive and experimental with like this cryptocurrency stuff and this Urbit stuff, right? And it's like, which is kind of cool. I respect that, right? It's like instead of selling, like a $3,000 course, right? Like the PKM people, he's like, I'm gonna make you, he sign up for this Urbit thing. I don't even know what I'm freaking buying when I'm getting it. It's like 50, to 150 or 300. You choose the price you want to pay. And then you have to jump through all these freaking hoops to get this Urbit server thing set up and download these key files. And it's just like every cryptocurrency product, true cryptocurrency
does it
product
on purpose, right?
It does filter out a lot of the plebs so that he's left with his the elite class and elite race of people. But I think it's cool. Like,
well, you're not going to have a person posting, about the Kardashians on Urbit. So that is a good thing. I like the idea of an intellectual dark web. Yeah. In that sense.
In that sense,
FBI, please know that I'm not talking about Silk Road dark web. I'm talking about intellectual, ability to discuss like intellectual ideas without not having your feed broken up with a bunch of, pictures, from Kardashian or ads or whatever, so that is kind of interesting. I mean, he is definitely an interesting character. I would love nothing more than to next time I go to Austin to say, hey, I'd like to, talk to you, hang out. I find him an interesting character.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah. So now that we've capped
character assassinated Justin.
Yeah.
What's next? Check. And Milo, check.
Especially Milo. Really.
Yeah. I like Milo too. It's just I don't get him. He's kind of
good thing Milo doesn't watch YouTube videos. He just goes and creates WikiLinks.
Plays with his WikiLinks at home.
Plays with his fondles as many WikiLinks and in his off time. So
yeah. So we don't have to worry about him.
Yeah.
Justin's on Urbit raging against Jews, so we don't have to worry about him either.
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, and true. So
you can't hate the Jews to be a Christian. So that's the reason why I know when they attack him for being him and his group, as like neo-Nazis, that's the reason why I defend them, is because he is a full Christian. He has talked about we've lost love. He's talked about things that would not reconcile with being anywhere near a neo-Nazi, in my opinion.
Yeah. He just hates the Philistines. But other than that, he's good. He just hates the Philistines because they're disorganized and they're not good enough to actually know.
They don't have the
good
genetics.
PKM and personal information storage system best practices. So yeah,
well,
I mean,
the interesting thing about him, and I'll say this last thing, is he doesn't talk about like independent intellectualism as much as he talks about post intellectualism, right? So he almost still puts that qualifier that you have to have went to college to be kind of, you know, you're post intellectual, post academic. You know, he always uses that term. He never says like independent intellectual or autodidactic or something like that, which is what I would embrace more. You know, anybody.
I would be willing to bet or guess that he would be a fan of the autodidacts, but who knows? Yeah, there maybe you're right. There is that seems to be a little bit of that, the inclusive elitism with using, you know, confusing words and stuff like that.
And I could just be painting him. That's my, you know, subjective experience of him. Like I said, half the time I'm like, oh yeah, and then next time he'll write something, I'll be like, I have no idea what he's getting at here, but it's like borderline, like, you know, getting into some extremism thought, you know. But I also like that, because that's the only way to push like experimental thinking, is to go to the extreme, but have enough humility to come back from and say, you know, I'm not probably smart on this. Like that one meme or that one thing I told you about that he had posted about way back. He even walked that back, and he says, now that I've gotten older, I realized, you know, I was really, you know, I regret writing. And I think that takes a lot of humility and wisdom and manness to stand up and say, you know what, I made a mistake there in my youth. You know, and not under pressure from anybody to be woke, but I realized my own mistake. So I respect him for that.
He had time to cogitate on that during the you know, the church pastoral session, when the pastor was saying, you know, you should not liken abortion to necrophilia. So he's like, you know what?
I forgot he made that comment too.
That resonates with me.
I forgot he said that too. I was talking about something else.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I think I remember what you were talking about. No, yeah. He was like, he had like an Epstein comment or something. Yeah. Anyway, I at that point, I think he at that point he was like 90% more psycho, and now he's reined it back into being 10% more psycho. 10%, yeah. I like the 10% more psycho version of Justin Murphy. The other one's actually kind of entertaining as well, but yeah, this was
a good talk. Awesome. I mean, I thought it was a great article. You know, I pretty much agree with him. And I think if he would have differentiated, if he would have had better differentiation, which would have taken more understanding of what's in the space, I would have completely agreed with him. But I think I completely agree with the article. I think he made a mistake bringing Luhmann in because he just didn't understand. The article as a whole, I agree with him.
Yeah. More of the story, Justin, if you're listening and still paying attention, is never, ever, ever fuck with Luhmann. We will come after you.
The syndicate.
Yeah, the syndicate. Well, cool, Lane. Well, thanks very much for riding shotgun again as we you know, go down this intellectual journey together and dive into fun stuff. So yeah. Cool. All right, I'm gonna hit the end record button, but all of you anti-netters and fellow intellectual travelers and wanderers, hope you enjoyed this episode, and please hit the like button, subscribe, and comment below, and share your thoughts. Anyway, peace and love.